All right. So this is 11.3 data distributions. There's a good bit of vocabulary. It's only 7 slides, but it's going to take some time, sadly. First thing we have is we have what's called the mean. The mean is the average of a set of data, which is just, numbers. That's all it is. You're expected to know how to find the average of things. The median is the item in the middle, or the data in the middle. Now, if there's an odd number of items, the median is the middle number. If an even number of items, it is the average. The median is the average of the two in the middle. Now, for this to be true, the data is arranged in ascending or increasing order. Mode. The mode is the item or items that happen most often. It's not entirely useful, but it has its place. It's the item or items that happen most often. Now, if two items happen, what's the right word? Simultaneously happen the most often, the same number of times, we have a bimodal situation. Now, if it's 3 or more, we call multimodal. It's multimodal. Standard deviation is something we'll talk about on Wednesday of next week. Standard deviation is how numbers vary, or how data, because it's data, varies amongst itself. Okay? 5-number summary gets talked about today. 5-number summary is the min, the max, what we call the first quartile, the third quartile, and finally, the median. That's the 5-number summary. Oops, I hit a button. All right, there's the vocab for the most part. Some of this stuff I'm going to talk to you about quite a bit more, like what first quartile and third quartile are. Lots of vocab. All right, here we have Shen and Dakota. They were asked to estimate the mean and median of the following data set. Shen said the middle value is 11. Both the mean and the median are approximately 11. Dakota said most of the data is to the left. So he thinks the mean and median will be about 9, with the mean slightly larger. Dakota's a smart kid. Dakota's a very smart kid. So, if you just look at this visually, this is this is the middle. But this is a frequency chart, and a lot of kids don't want to think too much past simplistic thought. This stuff between 6 and 7 happens, 12, 13 times? The stuff between 7 and 8, 14 times. The stuff between 8 and 9 happens 16, 17 times. This stuff happens 15 times. And that's one of the things y'all do. Y'all don't think. I don't get it. You do not try to think. You want everything to be spoon-fed to you, but that is a frequency count. So this stuff is happening more often than this stuff is. Okay? So Dakota's correct. 100% correct. The mean or the median is going to be somewhere around 9 because that's where the majority of stuff is. And the mean should be just a little bit bigger. So here's a question. Which measure of center? And that needs to be defined. What is a measure of center? All right. There are 3 measures of center. And they mean exactly that. Where is the center of the data? We use mean, we use median, and sometimes we use what's called the interquartile range, better known as the IQR. There should be spaces there, but maybe like that, interquartile range. also known as the IQR. They define middle ground. What we'll learn is because this data is said to be skewed, is we should be using the median. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce that word. Since the data is skewed, which means there's more of it on one side than the other, and it's actually a skewed right situation. But since the data is skewed, we use the median. And that's more for tomorrow, or in this case for y'all, Wednesday. Forgive me, I'm recording this on a Friday. All right, so this is a histogram, which is a frequency distribution. It's the one Chen and Dakota were arguing about. And it says, do you know how to find the median by hand? And finding the median by hand would be kind of a pain in the butt on this thing. But what you would do is you would write out all the numbers in increasing order. Now, I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to do it because there's a lot of stuff there. To find the mean by hand, you would add up all the data and divide by the total. And again, I ain't got time to do that either. We're going to use what's called class midpoints to do this and the frequency count. So let me define a class midpoint. It is the data value here, because these are scores and this is output kind of, but is the data value in the middle of two other data values. And we call it classes because whoever has done this histogram has arranged things so that they only counted scores between 6 and 7, and 7 and 8, and 9 and 10. So your class midpoints here, if you think about being halfway between 6 and 7, you're going to have a class midpoint of 6.5. Your next one's going to be 7.5, then 8.5, then 9.5, 10.5, 11.5, 12.5, 13.5, and you kind of get the gist of this, 14.5, and the last one's going to be at 15.5. Now, this is one of those points where it'd be really cool if you played along. It would be, but you ain't going to now, are you? Frequency count, I'm going to have to guesstimate. I think that this one happens 12 times. This one probably 14. That one, let's go with 17. That's one of the things I don't like about histograms. That's 15 on the money. That one's probably 9. Let's go with 8, 5, 4 twice, and then 3. So here's a frequency count. And nobody would give you a histogram and expect you to get the right answer. That's the reality of it. They would give you this. They would give you a table because nobody expects you to do this by hand. So we're going to use a TI-84 to do this. We're going to place these class midpoints and the frequency into list 1 and list 2 respectively. We're going to go to Stat, Edit. We've been there hundreds of times here lately, haven't we? It's like an old friend right now. And we're going to put stuff in. So we got 6.5, 7.5. Oh, crap. Wrong key. What sucks is I really needed to get this done today during my planning period. And it's not going to happen. I guess I'll work during lunch. That's what stinks. For those of you who think I'm the worst teacher you ever had, it's probably because you don't like math. You've never had anybody work harder for you. And you never will. I think kids have it in their bright idea that it takes 10 minutes to make a test. It doesn't. It's a long, long process because thought is placed into it based on where the students need to be, things they know, things they don't know, things you hope that they can figure out. It's not that I go to some AI and I say, make me an Algebra 2 test. I don't go to some book and get some pre-made test. There's a lot put into you. Maybe that's what you don't like. But anyways, I've put this stuff in list 1 and list 2. Now, from here, what you're going to do is you're going to go to Stat, Calc, and you're going to do one var statistics. Or first variable, one variable statistics. That's all it is, because there's only one variable here. It's the score. This is the only variable, score, input, output, stuff kind of like that. I know in college, in statistics next year, those of you guys that take it, you'll do 2 variable statistics. That happens when there's more than one variable. Now you need a frequency list, all right? So you're going to tell this thing that your frequency list is L2, and if you look really closely at your calculator at the 2 key, you'll see it there in blue. So second 2, let me type that out. Frequency list, it's second 2, all right? Because that puts L2 in there. And you can put the frequency list in L3, L4, L5, whatever you want. Scroll down to calculate, and you get a whole lot of cool stuff, some of which we're going to talk about and some of which we're not. Now, the mean is X bar. You need to remember that too. You have to remember stuff. And it's about 9.64. All right. And again, it would be really cool if you'd play along, but you're not going to. And there's a lot of other cool stuff they talk about here. Remember I talked about the 5-number summary? There's the minimum. There's the first quartile. There's the median, 9.5. Quartile 3, there's the max. Now, let's go back to Dakota. Dakota said the median will be about 9 with the mean slightly larger. He was right. The mean was slightly bigger, wasn't it? Dakota, like I said, smart guy. All right. What are the mean and standard deviation of the following data? And again, I'm not going to spend much time on standard deviation. I'm not. We're going to talk about it later because they're also talking about the spread of the data, which is something we'll talk about another day. But we are going to list it. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to place the data into list 1. Because in our last table we had 2 rows. We had the data and then we had a frequency count. There is no frequency list, okay? So we're going to have to clear that out of there. We're just going to place it in list 1. Once we do that, we're going to get stat, calc, 1 var statistics. 1 var stats, I think that's what it's called. I don't even know. I'm on autopilot half the time. So anyways, go to stat, go to edit. I'm going to clear this thing out and show you some of the other cool stuff that's in here. So we got a 4, we got a 12, a 15, a 9, a 14. It used to be way back in time that they made us do things like standard deviation by hand. And if you take a real statistics class, they might still do that. I had to compute a lot of this stuff by hand. Not, mean's easy, median's easy. But they used to make us do quite a bit of stuff by hand. They wouldn't just let us use our little calculators. We coddle y'all. So assuming I've got everything in there right, stat, calc, 1 var stats, 1 variable statistics. Now I don't need the frequency list, so notice that I'm clearing it because there isn't one. Calculate. All right. So it said, what are the mean and standard deviation? The mean is X bar, and it's about 11.625. Sigma, and it should say, but apparently I couldn't type it, it's sigma of X. That is sigma, by the way. Let me go ahead and type that in. That little guy right there is lowercase sigma. You guys like to say sigma, but that's the lowercase sigma. And it's given. It's right there. Sigma of x, 6.313. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. All right, moving on to the 5-number summary of the data. The 5-number summary is the minimum, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and the maximum value. So there's a bunch of steps here. You are to rearrange the data in ascending order. You're supposed to note the minimum, maximum values. I don't know why I have anything written here for minimum. Oh, I know. I was going to have you guys do this by hand. That's why, because I wanted to spend some time on this. So let me grab this list. And yes, it was all on the calculator, but I think if you can do one of these by hand, you'll really know what's going on, even though it's time consuming. All right, so I see a 3, then I see a 4, and a 4 happens twice. I see a 6 that happens twice. I see a 7. I actually get a little bit of spatial confusion going on here. I see a 9. Followed by a 12 and a 13. And a 13 happens twice. Followed by a 14, a 15, and a 16, and a 17. And what else do I see? I see that. Looks like after that it's what, 22 and 25? So I'm going to do a quick count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. All right, I got 16 things there. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Cool. So I didn't miss anything. All right, the minimum value would be the one on the left. That's 3. The maximum value would be the one on the 25. Now, this had an even number of items in it. It had 16 items in it. So I need to find the middle. There's 3, 6, 7. Should be right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the middle. And because we have 2 things in the middle, and you'll notice there's 7 things on each side, the median is going to be 12 plus 13, then cut in half. We got to find the average divided by 2. And that's going to be 12.5. So that's part of it. I have the min, I have the max. And now I've got to worry about the first quartile. The first quartile is the median of the lower half of the data. Okay? So let me get my lower half of my data. It's not going to be the median. The median's the middle. All right, let me get the lower half of my data. And if you look at that, it's going to be 6. Oh, sorry. It's going to be 6, yeah, isn't it? So, quartile 1 is 6. We usually call it Q1. The third quartile is going to be the upper half. We'll find the median of the upper half. I guess I should highlight that for y'all. That 6 is smack dab in the middle. And I feel like I didn't grab enough data over here. I should have grabbed that 13 too, shouldn't I? I'm going to have to stop soon. It really stinks. This stuff is kind of time consuming. It's not difficult, but it's time consuming. I absolutely hate teaching this one-on-one because, well, I mean, it's so long. So quartile 3, the median of the upper half, is 16. Now, let's make sure I was right. I had just done this in a calculator. All right. Now, you'll notice it's got quartile 1 there at 6. I haven't done this by hand in years. Quartile 3 it has as 15.5, which means I made a small mistake. You know what the mistake I made was? And I'm glad I made it. I should have kept that 12 in there, and I didn't do it. Hadn't done it in so long. And I should have kept that first 13. Silly Milbrath. So this would have been the average of 2 6s, and this would have been the average of 16 and 15. So it's going to be 15 plus 16 divided by 2. All of that. And there's the mistake. The truth is, I've used a calculator for so long, I hadn't done it in so long. If you don't use it, you lose it. All right, so I've got to get ready for 5th period now. I will continue this later. All right, so now the 5th period's out, I can finish this. Here's something old, the old box and whisker plot. I remember doing those around 7th grade, and I kind of thought they were stupid. And I never really appreciated the box and whiskers plot until I got older. I guess that's growth. I don't know. It's not going to be a perfect one. We have data that goes from 3 to 25. Those are your maxes and your mins. We have a median, which I've done forgotten since it's been an hour, of 12.5. Okay, so that's the middle. So from 325, the median's 12.5. And let's see here, quartile 1 is at 6. I probably should have put out 25 tick marks to make these things look better. It'd be around right here. That'd be about a 6. And the upper quartile is at 15.5, which is going to be closer to 12.5 than it is to 25. So that's kind of a big deal that it's in the right area. So I need those places on the graph. And the box and whisker plots was exactly that. It was a box and whiskers. That's what it was. Man, I'm tired. So anyways, the idea is that the box gave you a good idea of where the middle ground was. And that's why they did them. Maybe you remember doing them, maybe you don't. It looked like that. It had a box and it had whiskers, and the whiskers went all the way out to the min and the max. And this piece right here between quartile 1 and quartile 2 is called the interquartile range. And it is a very good way of suggesting what the middle is. This is literally the middle ground. If I want to know if something is close to average, I can look at the interquartile range. It's a really good thing for that kind of thing. And you'll have to do a box and whisker plot tomorrow. Sorry. It's just the way it's going to be. All right, so this one I'm going to do entirely in a calculator because, well, it's my lunch break and I don't really feel like doing it by hand. So anyways, we're going to go to Stat. I wish this was not in my way. We're going to go to Edit. And we're going to push buttons. 3, 4, 9, there's 12, 12. You might have a stats teacher one year who does this stuff in Excel. Those usually don't go as hot. A lot of times you'll encounter some of the girls and boys who go into nursing and they try and take a class through like Jackson State or Dyersburg Community. Those teachers teach statistics with Microsoft Excel, which is not unheard of, but boy, it's a struggle for those kids because they've never used Excel. Most college professors, they use a TI-84 to do it. And they use some other stuff too, like Stat Lab and stuff like that. Chloe, let her do that on her own. Oh, already? Oh, okay. Never mind then, I'm sorry. Anyways, we get his stuff typed in. One variable statistics. Scroll down to calculate, and it's going to tell me everything I need. So remember, I need a couple things for a 5-number summary. I need a min, I need a max. Remember anything else I need? Median. I need quartile 1, and I need quartile 3. Those are the 5 things I need for a 5-number summary. So the min is 3. The max on that one I hope is 35 because it's in order. It is. And all the stuff you need is right there. So 3, 12, 3 and 35 for the max. Median, MED is for median, is 19. First quartile is 12. And the third quartile is 33. Now, something I didn't do earlier, talk about that Q1. That is the bottom 25% of data. In some aspects, that's a good place to be, and in some aspects, that's not a good place to be. If somebody tells you you're going to test in the first quartile, that's not a good place to be. You want to be higher than that. So quartile 3 is the top 25% of data. There's a lot of vocab in this stuff. Anyways, there's how you find all that stuff with the TI-84. I want you to draw a box and whiskers chart. And I'm going to spend some time on this one, making it a little more accurate. Starts at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. Stops at 35. Now, the reason I did that was to make the plot actually look right. I know that 33 is my third quartile, and I know that my first quartile is at 12. There's 12. My median's at 19. And here is the IQR, the interquartile range. It's the box. And the interquartile range is going to be 50% of the data. It's 50%. It's the middle. And that's the most important thing. It's the middle 50%. See, we talk about measures of center. That was your mean, your median, and here you are with the IQR, the interquartile range. They all have their place. They all have their place in statistics. And that should be the last slide. And it is, because the next one's day 2, which will be for y'all next Wednesday. That seems right.